Hello.
Today, we don't have Adam on here. Today, it's just going to be me and Mason.
You have to put up with us.
Woohoo! Actually, it's kind of funny because he goes by Millennial Mason and I'm Monique, so it's like Millennial Mo and Millennial Mason. Woohoo! But today's going to be awesome. There's a lot of myths that people have around floating and having a float tank in their home. So today we're just going to talk about some common ones and debunk them for you. So, yeah.
I'll start.
All right.
So the first one that I wanted to talk about is more directed just with our Zen tent. And it's actually like the placement of your tent. Where you decide to put the tent in your home can be crucial, and we know that it takes some time to figure out. But, you know, and when people are doing the process of figuring out where you want it to go, some people think that putting it on a second or third story is a bad idea or it's unsafe. And a lot of times it can be perfectly safe. What we do is we have like a structural engineer, or if you know someone who's in that realm that can kind of look at your home, tell you where to set it up. It's 2,200 pounds when it's full, and that's with the salt and the water. So it's sort of a myth that it can't go on a higher level, but you just want to make sure that you have someone come check out your space and make sure it'll fit, but it should work.
Yeah.
That's a big myth.
That is a big myth. Most homes, I think if they were built after a certain year, most homes and condos and things can hold the tank.
Yeah.
So it's just double checking it, but chances are you'll be good to go.
Yeah, if you live in an apartment, I would recommend talking with the building manager. If you have a house, I would look for a local structural engineer or any sort of engineer that could just come take a look. One thing to keep in mind is the closer to the wall you are, the more structurally sound it is. So the further you get to the middle of the room, the less
stable.
Yeah, the less stable it will be. So keep that in mind. But always have someone come take a look, because we can't. Every house is different. So
yes.
Yeah.
Also, I see Emily is watching. Hi,
Emily.
Hope you're doing well. I think she's going to the UK soon.
Oh my goodness.
Fun.
That's
I'm
awesome.
jealous.
Find a float center.
Yeah, that would be so cool.
Yeah.
I've never floated in another country.
Me neither.
Has anyone ever floated in another country? Comment and let us know.
Has anyone ever floated in another country?
I'm really curious.
It's a good question.
Okay, so myth number 2 is that the Zen float tent is not soundproof. And actually, no float tank is 100% soundproof. They're not built with a ton of insulation. But usually a float center is in a spa, and spas are a really quiet environment, so you do get complete sensory deprivation. And also, you are underwater and you're wearing earplugs, which blocks out a ton of noise. So if you have a Zen tent in your home, it's just a matter of finding a quiet time or like a quieter room to put your tent in. Maybe don't put it right by a huge window that's facing like your main road. If you can find a basement room or a room that's like more inland or in. And then also you can put things up on your walls, or we've seen people put blankets over their tent just to make it a little bit more insulated and block out some of the noise. But like I said, you're underwater and you're wearing earplugs, which cuts out most noise anyways. And actually, a while back, we did a sound test on our Facebook Live.
That. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so someone was floating. I think it was Shane.
Yeah, it was Shane.
Yeah, Shane was floating, and they were testing a bunch of different noises. And so I'll try and dig that up and post it in the comments if you're curious.
Yeah, we'll link it.
Yeah, but you can, so no float tank is 100% soundproof, and there are little things that you can do to make it more quiet, but underwater and earplugs will block out most of the noise.
Yeah, for sure.
So, also, I see that Aaron Wolf is watching.
What's up, dude?
Saw. Hi. Okay.
I tried.
Okay, next myth.
Yeah, so the next one is going to be the water upkeep. and how difficult it is. The surprising thing to me that I sort of found out was that people think it's hard to maintain, and it's really not. If you stay on top of it, it probably takes 10 to 15 minutes a week, and then every month it probably takes 15 to 20 minutes a month when you have to get in there and wipe down the inside walls. But really, it's a matter of just dunking a single test strip, testing 3 different chemicals, making sure your water is at the right level, making sure your salinity is right, the amount of salt in the water, and that's pretty much it. Make sure that your pumps are running correctly and everything is good. Check your filter bag, and all that can be done in 10 or 15 minutes. The one thing to keep in mind is staying on top of it is a lot easier than trying to play catch up. So if you leave it for a month and a half or 2 months and it's kind of gross and dirty, the cleanup just to restore it back to its good health is going to take a lot longer than just maintaining it every week. So it's sort of a myth that it's hard to take care of. It can be intimidating, I think, having a body of water in your house that you maintain, but it's actually pretty simple.
And our owner, the founder, Shane, he had a hot tub and a float tank at the same time, and he said that maintaining a float tank was a lot easier than maintaining a hot tub. So that's just kind of a good reference point if you are curious about it.
Yeah, for sure.
And yeah.
It's just easier to stay on top.
Yeah, and if you do stay on top, you'll only have to fully replace water and salt once about every 2 years. So that's the hardest thing, but you don't have to do it often at all.
Yeah, it'll definitely prolong the life of the actual salt and water in your tank. So it's a good point.
Okay, the next myth, I love this one. It's claustrophobia. And we talked to so many people who are nervous about floating because they're claustrophobic. And so, of course, being in a little tiny dark pod is going to be scary. But, okay, how do I want to word this? The more you float, the easier it is to relax in a float tank. Yeah. And so it might be scary a couple times at the start, especially if you are claustrophobic, but the more you do it, I promise you will get used to it. I know when I very first started floating, I was so freaked out. I had like a full panic attack in a tank and had to leave the door open and let light in. But by the 3rd time I floated, I was completely relaxed in it, and I wanted that darkness. I was almost craving the sensory deprivation. So it just takes some getting used to. And if you are worried about being claustrophobic, there's a few things you can do to kind of decrease that. And so the first one is letting some light in, like what I did. So you can crack the door or leave the door all the way open. Or some pods have lights on or in the inside, and so you can leave those lights on for part or all of the float. Another thing you can do, which I like because it helps me orient myself in the tank, is you can just put a hand on either side of the wall so you kind of know where you are. I remember the first time I floated, I felt like I was spinning in circles and it freaked me out. So just placing your hands out on the side can kind of keep you a little bit oriented in the sensory deprivation. Another thing you can do is just focus on your breathing. That's really good for meditation and relaxation anyways, and it'll take your mind off of the fact that you're in a float tank, and that can be scary. So just so just focus breathing in, breathing out, where your breath's going in your body, or counting your breaths. It's a really great way to take your mind off it. And lastly, you are in full control. Like at any point, you can get out if you want to. You can turn the lights on. You can do whatever you want in a float tank to make yourself feel comfortable. So if you are claustrophobic, I still just really recommend trying floating. It's amazing, and it does help you relax, and you will relax after a few floats. So don't let that deter you.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. I would just say the one thing that I've noticed is, so we come from a float at home perspective, and it's a lot easier to deal with it when you're at home. I mean, you're in your own environment, so when you step out, you're in your living room or you're in your basement. So just remember that if you are floating at home, you're at home. So I would just take the tips that she said and try and get through it, because once you break through that, it's not really a struggle that you deal with.
Mm-mm.
I remember the first few times I dealt with it a little bit. I had to prop the door open with a towel a few times, but you work through it, and I think it's good.
Yeah, eventually you want that dark tank.
Yeah.
Like, you almost crave it.
Yeah.
Okay, the last myth.
I got it. So the last one is the idea that your first float, or even your first few floats, is going to change your life or blow your mind or meet all your expectations. I talk to a lot of people who are interested in floating or who are floating, and that's just not the case most of the time. And I talk to a lot of people who want that to happen. So it's a pretty big myth in the floating world that it will happen right away. And I would just go in with an open mind and don't set those expectations. Just go in there and see what happens, and that's usually when you're going to get the most benefits, is when you don't have these expectations that might lower your experience.
Yeah.
So that's a myth that I personally would want people to avoid.
Yeah, kind of like with claustrophobia, it does take a few floats to get used to it. So not for everyone, but for most people. And so if you go in there expecting it to be amazing and life-changing, but it's your first float and it's hard to relax, it's a new environment, it can be difficult to have that crazy experience.
Yeah.
So yeah, like Mason said, just don't set the bar too high for expectations.
Yeah. No, you're totally right.
Yeah, and just keep going. Like, eventually you'll find your groove. And
my first float, I thought that it was going to change everything.
yeah.
And so, like, I was looking for something at the time, and when I found floating, it was so hyped up that I thought, okay, this is it. This is going to change my life.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it doesn't happen, it might deter you. So just go in with an open mind.
What about now? Have you had...
Yeah, I mean, it gets better each float. I think I get better at it each float. I still haven't had, like, the mind-blowing experience, but that's not what it is for me.
Yeah.
So I think trying to figure out what floating is for you and why you're floating is more important than...
Yeah, what benefit you get from it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
How about you? Did you have a good first float, or did you...
No, it took me about 3 times to get relaxed.
Yeah.
The first time, I had to leave the door open because I was scared. The second time, it was a little better. And then by the third time, I was able to just fully relax into it. But if I take a break from floating and come back to it, it takes me a few times to get used to it.
Yeah.
So, and the more I do it, the better I feel and the better the float is. So it's having a consistent float practice. That's when you're going to get the most out of it and have those, like, crazy, mind-blowing experiences.
I agree. It's all about the habit.
Habits.
The habit.
Habits are key. Okay, well, everyone, thanks so much for watching. And also, there's a float group on Facebook. It's just for all floaters. It's not specific to Zen, so it's for anyone. And it's super fun. People bring up a lot of good new info. So if you want to join, just search the floating community on your Facebook and you should find it.
Yeah, go in there and post about the myths you've heard of that we didn't talk about.
Yes.
We'll make a follow-up or something.
Yes. Yeah, comment below what other myths you hear or what you're thinking.
Let us know what's going on out there.
Okay, well...
Are we done?
I think we're done.
All right. Till next week,
That was
I think.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see you next Wednesday, 4:30 Mountain Standard Time.
Yeah, have a good week, everyone.
See ya.
Whoa, finger guns, huh?